Hello everyone, so here I'm again back with another video. So today I will teach you how to do the CRUD operations using local storage in JavaScript. Okay, so before starting, let me show you what do you mean by CRUD. CRUD is CRUD, that is the short form of create, C as in create, R as in read, U as in update, and D as in delete. Okay, so suppose there is a form, and in that form you are like entering your data. So what you are doing, you are basically creating the data. So under create, there comes several tasks, or you can say several process or functions. So there are two sub functions, that is retrieve and insert. So what I will do is, first I will retrieve the data from the form, and then I'll store that data in the local storage, and then I'll access those local storage data and insert it into the table. Okay, so first is retrieve, and then is store data in local storage, and retrieve data from local storage. Okay, and then I'll insert that data into a table. Insert data in table. So these are the functions which comes under create. Okay, next is read. So read is nothing but reading the data from the form. Okay, and then comes update. Update, under update comes two functions, that is first is edit and then is update. That is, when you click submit on the form, what happens is the data is sent back to the server or in the backend, or in this video it is sent to the local host, like local storage. Okay, so what I want is, I want to edit that data. So for that, the stored data should be visible in the form, right? Then only we can edit that. So that is the function I will write inside this edit. And then update is basically, when I click on submit, the data which is stored in the local storage, it should update the current value or the current data. Okay, so these are the two functions I'll show you. And the last one is the delete. Delete is nothing but deleting the data. Okay, so first of all, I would like you to show a demo, then only you will understand what I am going to teach you. Okay, so this is the form you can see over here, and this is the table that I have created. The data is basically retrieved from the local storage. That is why I have written over here data from local storage. Okay, and on my right hand side, this you can see, this is the local storage. And under the storage section, there is a local storage, and this is my file. And here you can see key and value pair. So this is the local storage where you can see the data once I submit the data. Okay, so I'll show you the demo, and before that I want to tell you, like, how will you get this local storage window over here. I'm closing it first. So once you open the browser, right click on this page, and then you'll see over here inspect. So click on that. After clicking on inspect, this window will open, and you can see over here this arrow. You can click on that arrow and you'll find their application. Click on application, and under application there is storage, and under storage there is local storage, and then your file. Okay, so now let's see how it works. I'm entering my name over here, and then I'm entering SE, my job, and then I'm entering experience, suppose 1.5 years. And then when I click submit, you can see over here it gave a message data inserted, and you can see the values over here, like in the key is name and the value is Aditi Seal that I wrote over here. and then job is SE, and experience is 1.5. So you can see the data is stored in the local storage. And also here you can see this is a table I made with the help of HTML CSS and JavaScript. So the data here is retrieved from the local storage. Okay. Now when I click on edit, you will notice the data is again showing in this form. Okay. Let me first reset it, then you'll understand. See over here, the fields are blank now. Okay. But once I click on edit, the data is back in the form. I can edit over here. Let me change this name to Sham and change the job to developer. Okay, and let me change the experience to 5 and click submit. You will see the data is updated. The data is not added, but it's updated. Okay, in the same row it's updated, and you can see the message over here also, data updated. And look in this local storage also, the current data or the latest data is showing in the local storage. Okay, updated one. Now let me add another field, suppose Aditi, then job, suppose consultant, and experience, let it be 1 year, and click submit. You can see again the data is inserted in a new row. Okay, now if I click on delete, suppose I'm deleting the first row. So if I click on cancel, you can see over here there is a pop-up box once I click on delete, and it is giving me two options. I can click on OK or cancel. So if I click cancel, it will not delete this row. Okay, let me click this delete button once again. Now here you see once I click OK, it will delete this row. See that the first row is deleted and the message it gave is data deleted. Okay, now let me add another data. Suppose only Aditi, and job, let it be SC this time, and experience, let it be 2 years, and submit. See, again new data inserted in the next row. Okay, and you notice one thing, the data stored in local storage is the current one or the latest one. So you cannot find the previous data. Okay, so this was the demo. So now let's get back to the coding part. So I have already opened VS Code. Let me open a new tab in my browser and split the screen. So here you can see I have created a folder named CRUD, and I'll make a file inside this folder. I'll name it as index.html. Let me create the other two files also, that is script.js, and the third one is the style sheet, that is style.css. Okay, so let me write the basic HTML code. I'm just deleting these lines and giving the title as CRUD operations. Okay, so let me start the live server so that you can check the changes that I'm making in the file instantly. Okay, open with live server. So this is the page. You can see the title over here. I'll just close this. Yeah. Now let me link the two files, that is script.js and style.css. So here I'll write link CSS. Let me check if it's linked or not. I'll make the background color something blue. So here you can see the background color change. That means the style sheet is linked. I'll comment this line for the moment. Now let me link the JavaScript file as well. I'll write over here script source script.js, and I'll check that as well. I will write here an alert message and hit save. Now when I refresh this page, it's showing hello. That means the script file is also linked. I'll delete this for now. Now let me create the form. So first I'll write a h2 tag, and inside that I'll write form, and then I'll create the form tag, and I'll not give any actions. I'll give this form an ID. Okay. Now inside this form I'll create 3 input fields. First one is the text, which will denote name. So I'll give this field placeholder as name so that it is easier for the user to understand what to input in this field. Okay. Next I'll give this input field an ID, with the help of which I will manipulate this field in the JavaScript. So I'll write name as ID. I will use another attribute, which is name, which will be used to get the value from this form and store the data in the local storage. Okay, so that is why I'm using this attribute. So I'll keep it as name as well. Now let me create 3 of these input fields. Okay, so first one is name, the second one will be job, and the third one will be experience. Okay, so I'll keep it as exp short, and I'll change these as well. Placeholder will also be job, and last one will be experience, and name will be exp. Okay, but you can see it's all in one line, so I'll add br tags as well over here also. Next I'll add a button, and I'll give the value as submit, and I'll give an ID to it as btn. Okay. Next I'll create another button, which is to reset the form. So it will be basically reset. Okay, this one, and I'll write this value as reset. Okay, so now let me try if it's working. There is another slash over here, that is because I have given here slash, and let me delete that. Okay, now let me see if it's working. Suppose I'm entering something here and I want to reset it, so it's clearing the form for me. Okay, now when I click on the submit button, it should send the data to the backend or do some functionality, right? But now here you can see when I'm clicking on submit, it's doing nothing. That is because I did not assign a function to this submit button. So what I'll do is I'll write over here on click, and my function name will be submit opening and closing bracket. Okay, and I'll click save. It will not work now also. That is because I did not define this function yet. I just called this function. Okay, so let me define this function in the script file. So I'll just write over here function, and the name is submit, parameter is nothing, and I'll write over here an alert message saying this is submit function body. Okay. Now when I click on submit, you will see it's showing this message, which means the submit button is working. Okay. Now let's get back to the index file. What I'll do is I'll create a box around this form. So to create that box, let me first cut this and write over here field set. Okay. And inside this field set, I'll paste that form and click save. Now you see over here it has created a box around this form. Okay. And I want this form to be shown over here. Okay. So for that, what I will do is I will write this form inside a tag called legend. Okay. I'll paste it over and save. Now you see over here the form is written over here. Okay. This is just to design this form. You can skip this part. Now let's go to the next part, which is creating the table in which I will show the data. Okay. So for that also I'll create another box around that table. So I'll write over here field set, and inside field set I'll create legend, and inside legend I'll write data from local storage. Okay, and I click save. Now you see this box is created within the outer box. That is because I have mentioned this field set within the outer field set tag. So I'll just cut this and paste it outside this field set. Okay, it will solve the problem. Here you can see this. Now in between this, I'll create a div tag and give it an ID of message. Okay, I've created this div tag to show the message, like if the data is inserted, then it should show the data inserted. Okay, here you can see if I write something in between this div tag, it will show over here. Let me add some line break over here. Okay, and after this also. Now you see it is showing here. Okay, now let's create the table. So to create table, I'll be needing table tag. So inside this table there will be row and then column. So I'll write row, that is tr. It will create a row for me, and then inside this row I'll create td, that is column, and I'll create 3 of this column, and I'll write anything, something like I'm writing just to show you if the columns are created or not. Okay, and I'll click save. Now here you see this is the row, and then these are the columns like HHH, then DDD, then AAA. These are 3 columns created. To show this better, let me create a table border. I'll write border and give it suppose 2, width of 2, and click save. Now here you can see this is the table inside which columns are created. Suppose if I write another tr over here, and inside this tr let me write d with 3 values inside them. Now here you can see it has 2 rows and 3 columns. So this is how table is created. So let me delete this row and write the column names. So first will be name, then second one will be job, and the third one will be experience. Okay, click save. Here you can see 3 columns are created. And I'll give these 3 columns a class name just to show that these columns are the main column or the heading of the table. Okay, so I'll write over here call. This is the class name. Okay, I'll use this class name in the CSS file to give it style and show this is the main heading. Okay, let me give an ID to this table as well. Let it be table only. Okay, and click save. So this was all about the HTML file. Now let's go to the script file. So here I'll delete this line. So to do CRUD operations, let me first write the full form of CRUD. So first is create, then is read, then is update, and then is delete. Okay, so I'll declare some global variables. So I'll write over here global variables, but I'll not declare it now. That is because first I'll have to explain you the functions that I will write just now. Then I'll declare the variables, then it will be easier for you to understand. Okay, so first when an user clicks on submit, what will happen is the data should be retrieved from the form. So to retrieve the data, I'll write a retrieve data function. Okay, retrieve, retrieve data, this function, and I'll store whatever this function returns in a variable called data entered, or you can simply write data, whatever it is, like this is a real data or the data which the user inputs over here. Okay, so let me define this retrieve data function. Okay, so I'll write over here function, and the function name will be retrieve data. There is nothing in the parameters, and now let me create three variables. That is, first one is name, second one is job, and the third one is experience. Okay, you can see over here we cannot use this name, that is it's a keyword, so I'll just write over here name1. Okay, now to retrieve the data, we will use JavaScript document object model, that is DOM. Okay, so DOM, that is document object model. So what it does is, like the browser, it has a window object. Okay, and inside that window object there is another object called document, and inside that document there are multiple functions which we can use to retrieve the data. Okay, so we will write document dot get element by id, and inside the function we will give name and then value. So this document object has many functions. Like if I write document and dot, and then you can see over here these are functions. Okay, I can write here get element, and you will see there are multiple functions like get element by id, get elements by tag name, class name, by name. These are the functions you can use. Like I'm using this id function, that is because I wrote over here in this HTML file, in this form, I've given them ID. Okay, I can use this name as well, or I can use this tag name also input to fetch the datas, but I'm using ID. Okay, that is because if I write tag name, then it will fetch all the tag name which is named same. Like if I write over there get element by tag name, and inside this parenthesis I write their input, then it will fetch all the data which has the tag name as input. So I don't want that. I want a specific value. So that is why I'm using ID. And ID is different for each of these input fields. Okay. Now let me do the same for other two variables as well. Get element by ID. Now this ID is job, and then value. And this value is like if you only write till over here, like if I delete this dot value, then it will return you an object. That is, when I write get element by id, this function, it has many more functions and objects inside that. Okay, so these are all defined within this windows object, windows dot document dot this object. Okay, so I'll have to write dot value, fetch the value, else it will fetch you whole object for you. Okay, I'll do the same for this experiment variable as well. Document dot get element by id, and then exp experiment dot value. Okay, now I have fetched the values in this functions, right? But I will need these values to do the further calculations. To do that, I'll have to return these fetched value to the original function that is over here, and it will be stored in this data entered variable. Okay, so to return this value, there are three values, right? Name, job, and experiment. So I cannot return all of the three once at a time. If I write here return, I'll give a bracket and write name 1 and then comma and then write job and experiment like this. It will return only the first value. It will not return all the three values. Okay, so what I can do is I can keep these three values in an array and return that array. Okay, so I'll mention over here variable arr. This is the name of the array, and inside this array I am storing the variable name1 and then job and then exp. Okay, now I'll return this array. Okay, click save. Now to verify if I got these values or not, I'll just console this, console.log, and I'll write over here data entered. Okay, and click save. Now let's open the console here first, inspect, and I'll go to console. I'll clear the console and minimize this console screen. Now let me put some values here. Let me write something and click submit. Now here you see when I hit the submit button, it gave the array, like the values that I entered over here, it's showing over here, and it's in the form of an array. You can see over here these are the values, and you can see prototype is array. Okay, now let me clear this console and get back to this code. I'll delete this console.log line, and now the data is retrieved. Now what I want is I want this retrieved data to be stored in local storage. But first let me show you if there is any data in the local storage right now. So I'll go to application and local storage. Here you can see there is data. So these are the data that I entered while I was showing you the demo. Okay, so it basically keeps the latest value that you enter. So I'll just clear this local storage, and then I'll write a function over here named reading data from local storage. Okay, and I'll keep this data in another variable named read data. Okay, so inside this read data, the data from the local storage will be stored. Okay, now I have to pass the retrieved data, right? Like in this variable, the retrieved data is stored. So I'll have to pass this variable in this function. So right over here, data entered. Okay. Now let's define this function. Okay, I'll just copy the function name so that I do not make any spelling mistake. I'll write over here function. The name, I'll just paste it over here. There is parameter, I'll have to accept it, right? I have passed this parameter, but I'll have to accept that. So I'll just write over here data or I'll write this name only so that you do not confuse data entered. Okay, and click save. So this was like retrieving data from form. So I'll write retrieving data from form. So these all comes under create operation. Okay, CRDAT, create. And this is data in local storage. Okay, so now let me define this function body. First, I'll have to store the data in the local storage. So storing data in local storage. So I'll declare three variables for that. First is n, second one is j as in job, and the third one is e as in experience. Okay. Now, like document, there is another object of this window object named as local storage. I'll use local storage object to store the data. So I'll write here local storage dot. There is a function named as set item. So I'll use set item, and this function accepts two values. The first one is the key and the second one is the value. Okay, so I'll write the first one key as in name, and the second is the value, that is this value or the name that I have retrieved. That is a zeroth element of this array, data entered array. Okay, that is the array contains three elements or three values. First one is the name, second is the job, and third one is the experiment. And the index are like 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. So I'll have to retrieve the first element. So to retrieve first element, I'll write the array name, and then inside box bracket I'll write the index number, that is 0. Okay, same way I will do for the other two variables. I'll just copy this line and paste it over here and here also, and I'll write this key as job, and the third key will be experience. Okay, and I'll change the array index as well. This will be 0 and this will be 1 and this will be 2, and click save. Okay, now let's see if the data are stored in the local storage or not. So I'll write over here name, job, suppose SE, and then years maybe 2, and then click submit. Here you can see these are the keys, that is name, job, and experience, and the values are Aditi Seal, SE, and 2. So you can see the data are being stored in the local storage. Okay, so next what we will do is we will retrieve these values from the local storage and store in this table. Okay, so to retrieve the value from local storage, I will use get item method. Here I have used set item. Now I'll use get item. Okay, so now let me write the variables now. Getting values from local to table. Okay, so I'll write n1, then j1, then e1. Okay, these are the three values or variables that I need. Now let me copy this line and I'll paste it over here. I'll change this function name to get item, and the key will be name, but the value here will be n, that is the value that is set in this local storage is stored in this n variable, right? So I just simply write over here n. Okay, Now I'll do the same thing for the other two variables. Paste it over here and here. I'll change this to job and this to experience, and I'll change this value as well, that is J, and this will be E. Okay. Now here I'll again make an array of this data, var array, and I'll keep these data inside this array n1, j1 and e1, and I'll return this array, return arr. Okay. Now let's see if the datas are retrieved or not. Okay. So to check that, what I will do is I will simply show the data in the console. So I'll write over here console.log read data. Okay. So once the array is returned from this function, it is stored in this read data variable, right? That is why I am printing this value in console. Okay. So now let's check that. I'll enter here Aditi and something else, and then I'll write here 5 and click submit. You can see in this local storage the datas are changed. Now let me go to console, and here you can see the datas are retrieved. Okay, Aditi and then this and then 5. Okay, so I'll just delete this line and clear my console and open application local storage. Okay, now after retrieving data, I need to insert the value in the table. Okay, so this was basically reading the data. So I'll just write over here read. Okay, this was about reading the data. Now next is to insert the value in the table. That is, the data I have retrieved, I'll have to insert it in the table. So for that I'll call here insert function. Okay, I'll just write over here insert, and I'll pass this value, the retrieved value, in the insert function. Okay, now I'll just minimize these functions. Now let me create insert. Now let's define the insert function. First I'll write function, and then the function name will be insert, and in the parameters I'll write read data. So this is the parameter which I have passed in this line 8, and I am receiving it over here. Okay. So to enter the data, first I'll have to insert a row, right? Or else where it will be entering the data. So to insert row, there is a function named as insert row. This is the function name, insert row. Okay. So I'll use this function to insert row, and I'll store this value in a variable called row, so that I do not have to write again and again like the whole line. Like whenever I am referencing the row, I do not have to write again and again. Okay, so to store this information, I'll write over here var row equals table dot insert row. Okay, this function basically inserts a row in the table. Okay. Now to check if this function works or not, let me go back to this form and let me click on the submit button, and you can see over here whenever I am clicking on submit, the border of this table is going down. That is because it is inserting row over here, but you cannot see it because I did not enter any data or something. Okay, so what is the functionality it is doing now? That is, whenever I'm clicking on submit, it's not checking whether I entered any data in the fields or not. It's simply checking that whenever I'm clicking submit, it should enter this row. Okay, so that is why it's not showing any error or something. So whenever I'm clicking submit, it's entering a row. Okay, now let me show you how to enter a cell. Like this is entering a row, but I need cells, like we need cells to enter the data. Like here you can see name is written in one cell, then job is written in second cell, and experience in the third cell. So likewise I need cells for each row, right? So to insert cell, we use a function called insert cell. Okay, this is the function name that I'll be using to insert the cell. So let me write first cell as cell 1 and then equals, then I'll reference the row and then dot and then insert cell and I'll put 0. 0 is the index, like suppose this is an array. So how do you reference array? So the numbering or the index starts from 0, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. So if you want to insert the data in the first cell, we'll have to reference the index 0. Okay, and similarly I'll have to create cells for every data. So I have 3 data over here, so I'll create 3 cells. I'll simply use the shortcut. Okay, so I'll make this cell 2 and this will be cell 3 and this index will be 1 and this index will be 2. Okay, so basically what happened is these function inserted the cells, but it will not show anything in the table yet because I did not enter any data in the cell. Okay, so to show the data, first I'll have to access the inner HTML of the cell, right? So how do we do that? We write over here cell 1, that is this variable, this first variable, cell 1 dot inner HTML, and I'll write equals, and within double quote I'll write hello. Okay, this is just to show you that if the inner HTML is working or not. Okay, so when I click submit, you will notice that it will insert a row, and inside the row there will be the first cell having hello value. Okay, and the rest of the cells will be empty or blank. That is because I did not assign any value to those cells. Okay, so here you can see when I click submit, you can see the cells are created, these black borders you can see over here, but there is no data inside them. Only the first cell is having the value hello. But I do not want this hello to be printed in the first cell, right? I want the value which is entered by the user in this name field, right? So what I will do is, you remember the data of the form are stored in this array, right? Read data is the array in which I have stored all the data, right? And I have passed this read data array in this function. So what I can do is I'll remove this and I'll write read data, and to access the array elements, what we generally do, we write this like box brackets, and inside them we give the index. So name is the first value, right? So obviously the name will be stored in the first index, so I'll write over here 0. Okay, similarly I'll do for the rest of the cells as well. I'll simply use shortcut, that is Ctrl Shift D, to copy the lines, and I'll just change here, this will be 1 and this will be 2 and this will be cell 2 and this will be cell 3. Okay, and I'll click save. Now let's come back to my form and let me enter the data. Okay, so first I'll write Aditi Seal, then I'll write SE, and then I'll write maybe 1. Okay, and click submit. Now here you can see I have retrieved the data as well as I have shown the data in the table. These are the data that I have entered in the form, you can see over here. So it's showing in the table as well. Okay, so this means that function is working correctly, right? But you can see over here, it's like too much of lines of coding, right? Like you do not need these values as well, like the variable cell 1, cell 2, cell 3. You do not need them as well. So what I will do is, I'll remove this variables, like I'll remove this, and instead of writing cell1.inner HTML, I'll simply write this along with the insert cell function. Okay, I'll write over here, so insert dot inner HTML, and then I can write over here read data. Okay, this array. So it basically saved 2 to 3 lines of code, so it can be written in one single line, right? So I'll just remove this extra semicolon and I'll do the same thing for rest of the lines as well. I'll simply remove these and I'll simply copy the previous lines, and I'll write over here 1 and I'll write over here 2, and this will also be 1, and this will be 2, and I can delete these 3 lines. So instead of 6 lines of code, you can see it is written in 3 lines only. Okay, it will do the same work. You can check it over here also. Let me enter some data. So I'll enter 2 and submit. So here you can see it's working fine. Okay. Now, if you remember, when I showed you the demo of the form, there was another column here named action, in which you were able to edit or delete the data from the form, right? But here you can see it is showing only 3 columns, and the data are being retrieved from the form itself, right? So let me show you the form once so that it's easier for you to understand. I'll just open this index.html. And here you can see this is the column I was talking about. This is the action column which is not present here. And when I enter the data over here, it will give you the opportunity to basically delete or edit the data, right? So these are the 2 buttons which you can use. But in the current form, there is no such column in this table, right? So to do that, first I'll have to insert a cell, right? So what I'll do is row dot insert cell, and I'll write the index as 3, and then dot inner HTML equals maybe hello. Okay, and click save. Now here you can see when I'm clicking submit, it's creating another cell over here, okay, and it's printing hello also. But you can see there is no heading over here. So I'll have to create another cell in my HTML file. So I'll go back to my HTML file and I'll scroll down and I'll add a td element over here, okay, and I'll name it as action, and I'll give it the same class. So I'll just copy paste it over here and click save. Now here you can see the action heading is created. Okay, now here I need 2 buttons, right? We do not need this text, or we do not want to retrieve any data over here. We need 2 buttons, and that button should be clickable and it should do certain function. So to create a button, I'll have to use button tag, right? So I'll delete this hello and I'll write button, and I'll give it a name as edit, and then I'll close the tag. Okay, so let me save it and let me come back to this form and click submit. Now here you can see it is created a button for me which is named as edit. Okay, similarly I can create another button. So I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it beside that, and I'll name it delete. Okay, and click save. Now let me come back to this form, and now here you can see 2 buttons are created. Okay, now you cannot keep on writing like this in one line for the HTML code, right? So what you can do is, instead of using this double quotation, you can use a single quote, like that single quote which is present in your keyboard above tab key. Okay, like it is present in the tilde key. Okay, and not the single quotation which is present beside the enter key, not that one. Okay, so I just use that, then you'll understand. So this is the one. Okay, and not this one. I'm not talking about this, I'm talking about this first one. Okay, you can use this one. So I'll just delete this and I'll do the same at the last also. I'll remove this and I'll use this quote. So this is the quotation I was talking about, and now you see when I click enter over here, it will not give error. Okay, this way you can write HTML giving line breaks also. Okay, let me show you how it gives error. If I write over here double quotes, and I write over here double quotes as well. Now when I click enter over here, you can see it's showing error. Okay, that is because it's not recognizing this line as HTML line. Okay, but you can see the quotation is closing over here, still it is giving error. So what I'll do is I'll use over here that single quote. Okay, I'll write this. This is just to organize your code or just to make the code look cleaner. Okay, you can skip this line also, you can keep typing on the same line also, it's up to you. Okay, so now let me assign this button a function, right? So it should perform a function whenever the user clicks on it, right? So let me give it a function on click, and I'll write here edit. This is the function name, and I'll pass this current row with the help of this keyword. Okay, so what it basically does is this is the attribute. On click is the attribute, and edit is the function which I will be defining it now. And this is the parameter. This is parameter. This word, this keyword is called a parameter. So here, this keyword is referencing the current object. So what is current object here? The current object is this one. Inner HTML is the current object. That is, these all are objects, right? These all are objects of the doc. That is the document object model. This browser, whatever you are seeing, is the part of the Windows, and under Windows come this DOM object, and then under that comes all these objects, right? So currently it is referencing to this inner HTML object. Okay, so I'm passing this inner HTML as a parameter in this edit function. Okay, and I'll do the same thing for the delete button as well. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it over here, and I'll edit this name. I'll write it as remove, because I cannot write delete because delete is a keyword over here. Okay, so I cannot use the keyword delete. So this was all about insert function. Now let's see the definition of the edit and remove function. Okay, so I'll just minimize this, and here I'll write edit function. And edit function has two things. First, the data from the table should be available in the form, and the second is when I update the data and click submit, it should update in the table as well, right? So it has two more functions. So it has edit and another one is update. Okay, and after that we will define a delete function. Okay, now let's start with edit. So let me define the function. Function name will be edit, and the parameter will be suppose td. I'm writing it as td, but you do not confuse with the like that element over here. You do not confuse this with this one. That is because this td is the column, right? But this td is not the column. This is the value inside the column. Okay. So you can write anything over here, like do not write td only. You can write any name. You can write suppose a, b, c or whatever. So I'm just writing td. And here what I'll do is first I'll have to fetch the row, right? But this is not the row. This is the value inside the cell. So what I'll do is I'll make a variable over here, and also I cannot use the row in this insert function. That is because this variable is already destroyed once this function is over. Okay, so this is a local variable. So I cannot use this over here in this edit function. So I'll have to define it once more. Okay. So I write over here variable as row, and here I'll write td dot parent element dot again parent element, and I'll save this. So what this variable row is storing is the element, the row element, that is the tr which is currently inserted, like not this heading row, but the row it is inserted after that. So how it is storing, that is, you can see over here parent element. Okay, this is an object. So what it does is it returns the parent element. It is very obvious from the name as well. So suppose this td is referencing the cell value. Okay, so if I write one time parent element, it will go back to this TD column element. Then again, if I write parent element, it will go to its parent element. What is the parent element of TD? It is TR. Okay, I can write like that continuously. I can write another parent element, then it will go to table. Okay, this is how it works. So currently it was the cell or the cell value, and then I put one parent element, so it is now referencing TD, and then again I put second parent element. Now it is referencing the TR. TR is the row, right? I want this row only. This is how we accessed the current row. Now I'm currently in this position. I'm in this position, right? Now to edit the values, I need the names or IDs of these fields, right? This name, this job, this experience. I need IDs of these fields, right? So what I'll do is I'll write document dot get element by ID, and I'll write name. Okay, name dot value. So now it is basically referencing the value that is stored in this field. Okay, so I'll just write over here equals row dot cells, and I'll write at 0th index and then inner HTML. Okay, so what it basically did is, I'll explain it to you. First, let me write the same thing for the other fields as well. I'll just copy it, and here I'll write job, and here I'll write experience. This should be in small, that is because I wrote it like that in the HTML file. Here you can see I wrote it in small letters over here. Sorry, this one, the IDs. Okay, so now I'll change the index of the cell as well. This will be 1 and this will be 2, and click save. So what is happening is, you can see I wrote here row dot cells and then this index, right? So what cells are? So cells are basically an array which is stored by default. Like when I am creating a table, all the data of the cells are stored in this cells array. Okay, so that is how I can directly reference values of the cells by using its index. Okay, and so I wrote over here row, that is the current row, dot cells of the first element, like the first element is stored in 0th index, right? So that is why I wrote over here 0, and then I wrote over here inner HTML. So what is stored in the inner HTML? The value that is stored in the table of the first cell. Okay, so this is how I'm getting the value of that particular row in my form. So this is the form, right? So what I'm doing is I'm assigning the value in the form. So this is how the data in the table is being showed in the form. Okay, let's try and let me show you how it works. I'll click save, and now here you can see, suppose I'm giving some data here, and let me write something, and then click submit. You can see I have received the data over here, and now when I click on edit, it is showing the same data. That is because I did not clear this field. So let me first clear this field, then you will better understand. Or let me add some more data over here. I'll write Ram, and then job maybe AC, and then experience maybe 6 years, and then submit. Okay, now you can see over here the data is the current one in this form, but I want to edit this first data from the table. So when I click edit, you can see the data is replaced with the data that I want to edit. So this is how this edit function is working, right? So after fetching the data, I want to update and then click submit, and this updated data should show in this form, right? So let me show you. If I update this, I'll just delete the title and I'll click submit. You can see it is creating a new row and a new data, and it is not being updated in the same row, right? So for that, I'll have to define the update function. So this was all about edit function. I'll just minimize this and come to this update function. and I'll write over here function name, and I'll write update and give parameters as td, and I'll just remove this name from here. Now what will be update? The exact opposite of this edit. That is, now I want this value to be assigned to my this cell, right? So what I'll do is I'll just copy paste. I'll just copy this line and I'll just paste it over here, and I'll put equal sign and I'll write document dot this whole thing. I'll copy and paste it over here. Okay, that's it. So let me check if this is working or not. So I'll just write Aditi and entering any data and then click submit. Now let me click edit and I'll edit this first cell. I'll write sham and click submit. It is updating the value, you can see here, but it's updating in the next line and it is not correcting in the same row. I will tell you why it is doing so, but first let me write the code for the other two cells. I'll just copy paste this and I'll write here 1 and I'll write here 2, and this will be job and this will be experience. So it is not working because we did not call this update function, right? We only defined it. And also I want to tell you, we do not need this argument over here. That is because we did not use that parameter to do any function over here, right? So we used that td over here to fetch the row, right? But we do not need to fetch the row over here. We are simply replacing the values, right? We are assigning it. So we do not need this parameter, so I just removed it. And here first let me write the function here, like I should call this update function when this submit button is clicked, right? So let me call here and click save. Now let me see if I give the data here and let me click submit. So it's working. Now if I click edit, the data is here already. I'll just change it to Sonia, okay, and click submit. You can see it's still showing in the next line and not in the same line. That is because there is a conflict over here. You can see when I click submit, it's first executing this line, which is this insert function. And if you remember, while I was defining insert function, here I have inserted a row over here. So what it is doing is it's inserting a row and then it's assigning the value to the next row. That is why it's not updating, it's basically adding to the next row, right? So we do not want this. So there has to be a if else function so that this conflict does not happen. Okay, so let me just write over here an if else function. So if and then some condition, and inside that I'll call this insert function, and in else part I'll call this update function. Okay, now when this insert function should work and when this update function should work. So you notice one thing, we are inserting value when the row is empty, okay, but we want this update function to work when the row is not empty, right? Like when we click edit, the row is not empty, it's already filled. So we want to update and not insert, right? So this will be the condition, that is row equal null. But I did not define row, like did not declare row variable anywhere. Like you can see over here, we have declared inside the functions. Like here I have declared inside this function, and also in this edit part also I have declared. But these are all local variables. Okay, and I have also used the var keyword, which has two types of scopes. First is a global scope, and the second one is the function scope. Okay. So when the function execution is over, the variable will be destroyed, right? So when I write over here row equals null, it will show an error. You can see the error in this browser console. You can write over your console. So ignore these. I'll just run this and show you. I'll just save it and let me submit something. Now here you can see it is showing row is not defined. Okay, that is because the scope of this variable is limited within this function. But if I write this variable globally, let me write here global variables var and row equals null. Okay, and click save. Now it will not give error. Now what is happening is when we are defining this row as global variable, in this insert function, it is basically overriding the value that is written inside this row variable, right? But that is also a problem. Like we do not want to override the value. We want the same value to again check and then perform this insert and update function, right? So for that, what we need to do is once this update function is executed, the value of the row should be again set to null, right? So I'll just write over here row equal null. Okay, now I'll click save. Now I'll go back to submit function and I'll write a message over here so that it is clear to you what is happening when. So message dot inner HTML equals data. So if the data is inserted, it should give this message, and if the data is updated, it should give data updated message. Okay, so I'll just copy this and I'll write over here data updated. Okay, and click save. And this message is the div tag I have defined in this HTML form. Here you can see this is the one, and I've given it an ID of message. So I'm basically referencing this ID over here. So message.html, it is showing this one, this message. Okay. Now let's get back to the form and put some data. First, let me hit refresh and enter some data here and submit. So it's showing data inserted and the data is inserted in the table as well. Now when I click edit and let me change the name to Rohit, and I'll change this as well. I'll just write consultant and I'll click submit. Now you can see it's still showing the same. It's showing Rohit and consultant. The data is different, but it's entering in the new line. That is because I made a silly mistake over here. I've given the logical operator here. It should be single equal sign. The single equal sign means assignment and double means logical, like it is checking whether the value on the right and the left side are equal or not. Okay, so it should be single equals. Okay, I'll just click save and then I'll again refresh this form and I'll write the information here and I'll click submit and let me enter some other data. I'll just reset this and I'll use sham job something and this 5 and click submit. Now I want to edit this first row data, so I'll click edit. The data are being populated in the field. I'll just edit this. I'll just keep it as Aditi and I'll job will be SE and click submit. It's still showing the same. Let me see what mistake I've made now. Okay, so I found the error that I have written over here. That is, you can see in this edit function, I have declared this row variable with the var keyword again. And you can see in the global variable part, I have first time declared this row variable with the var keyword, right? So what is happening is, it is specific to this var keyword. Like when we declare a variable with var keyword, the variable scope is its current execution. What does that mean? Like if it's declared here, like outside any function, then its scope is global, okay? But if the same variable is again declared with this var keyword inside any function, it will delete the previously stored value in that particular variable and assign or basically create a new variable with that var keyword instantly. When I'm declaring a row variable with a var keyword, it's assigning null to it, okay? But in this edit function, I again use the same keyword, that is the var keyword, and with the same variable name, and I'm assigning something else in that variable, right? So it basically starts the declaration over here again, and it lost the previous value. Okay, so what I can do is, like if I want to use that row variable once again, I should not use this var keyword again. So if I delete this and simply assign to this will simply assign a new value to the previously declared row variable. Okay, so now let's see if it works. Like I have removed this var keyword from here. Now I'm just clicking save, Control S, and let me come back to my form and hit refresh. Now let me give some data to it. I'll just give okay, 2, submit. So it's submitted, you can see. And let me reset this form and then click edit. The values are populated in these fields. Now let me change this to let me shym sham, okay, and let me change this as well, and let me hit submit. Now here you can see the value is replaced or updated. Okay, it is not added in the second row, but it is replaced in that specific row. Okay, and you can see the message is also shown that the data is being updated. Okay, it is not inserted, it's updated. What does that mean? It means that this else part of the block is executed. Okay, so this was all about the edit and update functions. Now let us come to the delete part, the last CRUD operation, delete. Okay, before that let me minimize these functions and I'll write the function name here, and name will be removed, and I'll receive a parameter that is td over here so that we can fetch the current row with the help of td. Okay, so I'll do the same thing over here. I'll not use var keyword but simply assign the value to the row. So let me just write row equals td dot parent element dot parent element again. Okay, now to delete a specific row there is a function called delete row. Okay, so I'll use that. So I'll write over here, first I'll have to fetch the table, right? So I'll write document dot get element by id, and I'll pass the id here, which I kept it as table, and then I'll write dot delete row. This is the function. Okay, so I need to delete a specific row. So what I'll do is I'll pass the index of that specific row. So how will I do that? I'll write row is this row that I fetched, and I'll write dot, then I'll write row index. Okay, so it will return the current row index. Okay, and it will ask to delete that specific row. Okay, so this is how the delete function is written, like delete row function. So suppose if I'm writing over here delete row and not passing anything inside, then it will start deleting from the last. Okay, like if there are multiple rows, then it will start deleting from the last. So we'll have to specify a index over here. Okay, and if I write 0, so it will start deleting from top row. Okay, and if I write over here -1, it will start deleting from the end. Okay, but if I mention a row specifically in this parameters section over here, then it will delete that particular row. Okay, but I can write -1 or 0 like this. If we want to keep on deleting from the end or from the top, then we can put this function inside a loop and use this as -1 or 0, and it will remove the rows accordingly. Okay, so I'm just deleting this. Also, you can use remove function. There is another function called remove. So I'll just copy this line and I'll comment this first line and I'll use here remove. Okay, and I'll not pass anything inside this. Then you will see when I use this function, it will remove the whole row. Like not only the row, it will remove the whole table. But I do not want to remove the whole table, right? I just want to remove the specific row. So that is why I am using delete row function and not this remove function. Okay, so I'll just show you the demo and you will understand. Suppose I'm entering a data here and clicking submit, and then when I click on delete, you can see the whole table is removed. But in this case, if I remove this last line of code and uncomment this line and click save, now let me enter some data in this form. Suppose okay, and then I'm clicking submit, and then when I click delete, you can see this particular row is deleted and not the whole table. So let me submit some more values in this form. So I'll just reset this form first, and then I'll give some data in this. So let me write job as SE, and then I'll just submit this, and let me edit some more data. I'll write Ram and let it be SC, and then I'll just write the experience as well and click submit. Now see, if I want to delete this first row, then I can click on this delete and its first row is only deleted, not the second row. Okay. Now you can keep this delete function as it is like this only, or else you can add a like prompt, like if you want the user to confirm that you want to delete the particular row or not. So you can add a prompt here as well. Let me show you how to add a prompt. So what I'll do is I'll use the confirm function here, and I'll inside the confirm function I'll write, are you sure you want to delete this record? Okay, and click save. Now whenever I'm clicking this delete button, so it should first give me this confirmation pop-up, and then it will do the delete function. Okay, so let me try this. I'll just write Aditi and click submit, and when I click delete, you will see you are getting this prompt here. Okay, and if I click OK, then it will delete the row. Now let me show you another thing. I'll just refresh this page and I'll just give data and click submit. Now when I click delete, you are seeing there is two options, right? If I do not want to delete the data, then obviously I will click on cancel, right? But when I click on cancel, the data is still being deleted, right? So to prevent this, I'll have to add an else function in this confirm statement. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just assign this confirms result in a variable. So I'll write var and let me save the value in answer variable. So the answer is saved in this variable, and then I'll add an if else statement here. I'll write if answer is equal true, then it will perform this delete functionality, right? So I'll just write here, I'll just copy paste this line of code, and I do not need to write the else part of the block, right? Only I want this function to work, right? Okay, so I'll just click save, and let's get back to the form and hit refresh, and then enter some data and click submit, and let me delete this. And if I click cancel now, you see that the data is not deleted. Okay, and if I click OK, then the data will be deleted. Okay, so this was all about the CRUD functionality in JavaScript. Now I'll teach you how to validate this form. Like you can see here, when I am entering data here and leaving the rest of the fields blank and clicking submit, it's still taking the data and its submit button is working. But what generally happens is you do not want to keep these fields blank, right? So I'll have to perform some validation in my JavaScript code, right? Also, you can see when I'm clicking submit, these button, like these fields are not being cleared. I'll have to manually click on reset to reset this form, right? I do not want that as well. So these are the functionalities, and there are many more functions I'll show you in the form validation section. So this was all about the CRUD functionality, and now let's begin the validation part. Okay. So first I'll have to check if these fields are blank or not. Okay. So for that, what should I do? Like I'll have to retrieve the data from here, right? Whether it is blank or it has some data in it, I'll have to retrieve that. So I've written the retrieve function already in the code, right? So let me go back to that retrieve function. So this is the retrieve function. So I'll just open this, and here you can see I'm just simply returning the array of the values, right? But I do not want this. First I'll have to check if the fields contains any blanks or not. Okay, so to do that I'll use an includes function. Okay, so I'll just write over here arr dot includes, and inside the brackets I'll just simply write double quotes. This means it contains blank. Okay, and I'll put this condition inside an if else block. Okay, so I'll just copy this and I'll write if this condition is true, that is if it's a blank, then it should not return the array, it should return false. Okay, so I'll write here return false. Okay, and in the else part I'll write return this array. Okay, I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it over here and click save. So this is how it will check if the blanks contain any value or it is simply blank. Okay, now let's get back to the submit function. Now if it finds that the fields are blank, then what should it do? It should throw an error, right? So if it is blank, like this value, data entered value will have if it is blank or not. So I'll have to check this value inside an if else condition. So I'll just write over here if this data entered is equals false, then it will show some error. Okay, message dot inner HTML, then it should show the error as please enter data. Okay, and if it does not contain any blank value, then only it should perform this insert or update function, right? So in the else block I'll write in the else, I'll basically copy this part of code, or I'll just cut this and I'll paste it over here. Okay, inside the else part, and click save. Now let's run the code and see. I'm just refreshing this page and I'll add only the first field and I'll keep these two fields blank and click submit. Now here you can see it's showing please enter data. Okay, so it's not letting me submit this form. Okay, and also if I just delete this line and only give the this field and click submit, it's still the same. Or else if I just write the first two information and I'll click the third field blank and click submit, it's still the same. But when I add the third blank information as well and click submit, then only the data is inserted and it's given the message as data inserted as well. Okay, so this is working, right? Now next thing it should show is like whenever the user clicks on submit and the data is submitted, then only the form data should be blank or the form should be reset to blank. Okay, so to do that, what should we do is we'll simply go to the submit function and write document dot get element by id, and we'll fetch the form, that is form form. Then I'll write reset. This will basically reset the form. Okay, I'll just write open and close bracket as well and then hit save. So once the submit is clicked, the form should be reset. Okay, now let's test this. I'll just write the data here and I'll just click submit. You can see the data is inserted as well, the form is cleared. Okay, but we can use this reset function as well. Suppose I'm entering some data here and suppose I've by mistake I entered someone else's data, so I'll just click reset over here. That time this reset should be used, not for like clearing the whole form after I'll click submit, right? So it should automatically clear the form. I do not have to click the reset button again and again, right? So these were the two basic validation in the form that I wanted to show you. Like a normal form should have this much of validation. Apart from this, there are more validations, like you cannot enter number in this name field, or only number should be entered in this experience field and not any alphabets. So I'll teach you this form validation specifically in another video. Subscribe to my channel so that you can get the notification when I upload the video. Okay, so now let's go to the CSS part. So this was basic functionality and the validation part of the CRUD operations. So if you want to watch the CSS styling part as well, so you can proceed. So now let's start about the styling. Now let's go back to the style sheet over here, this one. I'll just uncomment this line and give this background some color. Let me write some RGB color here. I have already made the colors list separately, so I'll just go on adding over here. So it should be 18, then 18 again, and 57. Okay, and I'll click save. So this is the background color. You can refer this previous page, like this one. This was the original page which I made earlier. So I'll just color it like this only. Okay, so this is the background color. Then I'll convert the text color to white. So I'll just write over here white and click save. So you can see these text colors are white now. Next, I want this table border color to be white. Now it's like gray color something. So I'll just change that and I'll write table. Then I'll write border color white. Okay, so you can see it has given a nice white border to this table. Then I'll add some padding to the cells or the columns, you can say. So I'll just write TD padding 8 pixel to top and bottom, and then 16 pixel to the both sides. Okay, I do not need to write 8 pixel, 16 pixel, and then again 8 pixel and 16 pixel. If I write this once, it means that I'm giving this 8 pixel to top and bottom, and I'm giving this 16 pixel to the both sides. That is the left and the right. Okay, so you can see over here it has created some nice padding over here. Now I want this table's heading to look different from the rest of the rows, right? So for that, you can see in this index.html file, I've given this specific row some class name. Like I have assigned all of this cells dot call class name. Okay, I'll just remove this dot. That is, I don't know why I gave this dot over here. So I'll just remove this. Only call will do. Okay. So I'll access the cells with only call class. Okay, so I'll just write over here in my CSS file dot call, and then now I want my text to be bold. So for that I'll use the property font weight. So I'll make this bold, and then I want my font size also to be changed. So I'll write font size as 18 pixel and click save. Now here you can see the font is little bigger and it's bold as well. Now I want the first heading, like the heading row should be a different color. So I'll just write background color and I'll put a RGB color here. I'll write 164, 246, 10. Okay, so this is the color I want. So apart from the first heading row, I want the rest of the rows colors to be a different one. Like I do not want them to be this navy blue color. I want it to be something else. So what I'll do is I'll access those rows with the help of tr element, and then I'll write here background color RGB and I'll write 165, 233, 255. Okay, this is the color I want for the rest of this row. So let me just check this. I'll just enter some data over here. I'll keep the job, okay, now 2, okay, and then click submit. So you can see the color of the other rows are different, okay. Now I want this text to be black. It's not quite visible with this background color, right? So I'll just change the text of this table to be black. So to do that, I'll just write over here color and I'll write black, okay. So you can see the text colors are changed. Also, I want these these text to be in the middle. Okay, like this you can see it's aligned at the left side, but I want it to be in the middle. So I'll just write over here text alignment or text align center. Okay, and click save. Now here you can see it's in the middle. Now I want this form, like these fields, to be little bigger, like it's too small over here. So I'll just access the input element and I'll change the font size to 16 pixel. Okay, and when I click save, you see the fields are little bigger. Okay, so now there is one more thing, like you can see over here when I'm giving data, it's showing some message, right? In the when I'm clicking submit, it's showing this message, right? But whatever I'm doing, it's only showing in white color, and the font size is also too small, right? If you want to change this color of the text and the size according to whatever function you're doing, like if I'm updating, like when I'm clicking update, it should show in some different colors. Okay, suppose I'm clicking submit, it's changed to updated, but the color is still same, so it will not look like pleasant to the eyes. Suppose I'm clicking on submit button and it's showing this error, but error should be in red color, right? So it should be pleasant to your eyes, or you can directly see where you are getting the error or what error you are getting. So to catch users eye, we need to change this text color, right? But you can see over here, if I just directly access the ID, this is the ID I've given to this div element, MSG message. So if I write over here, MSG, this is the ID, so ID is represented as like this. And if I give it a red color here, then you can see whatever I'm entering, suppose I'm refreshing this page and then I'm clicking on the submit button, it's now red in color, it's fine. But when I'm entering some data, suppose I'm giving these datas in my form and clicking submit, it's showing data inserted, but it should not be in red color, right? Data inserted should be in green or yellow or something like that, right? So I cannot access this separately. So for that, what I can do is I can use the inline style property. Okay, so what I can do is I'll just remove this line from my external style sheet and I'll go back to my script file, and here you can see where I've written the message part over here. I can add specific style, like I can add this style to be shown in red color, this style to be shown in green color, and this message should be shown in orange or something else color. Okay, so what I can write here is I'll first keep this line copied, and then I'll use this single quote mark. Then inside this, I'll give this a h3 tag, so it will be a little bigger in size. Okay, then inside this h3, first I'll close this h3 tag, and in between I'll just paste my text, and I can give style to this tag, like I'll give style equals, this should be color, and this should be red in color, right? So I'll write semicolon and then I'll close this, and then I'll click save. And now see, when I'm refreshing this page and then when I'm clicking submit, it's showing in red color and the size is also changed. Okay, now if I enter some data here and click submit, okay, let me enter all the data and click submit, then you can see it's not affecting the other styles. Okay, so I'll just give styles to this other message as well. I'll simply copy paste this line I'll write it over here and I'll change this text to data inserted. Okay, and I'll do the same for my last message as well, and I'll write here data updated, and I'll assign this color, like I'll give this color green and I'll give this color orange. Okay, so it will be easier for you to visualize. So let me refresh this page and I'll write some data and keep these two fields blank and click submit. So it's in red color and the font is also a little bigger. Now let me enter some data here. Okay, now when I click submit, you notice the data is in green color, like the message is in green color. Okay, now let me edit this data. I'll write only Aditi here and click submit. So now it's showing in orange color. So this is how you basically give styles to some elements individually, okay, by using this inline style element. You can use this inline style in HTML file as well. But since I've written this HTML code in my JavaScript file only, so I've given the style over here. Okay. So this was all about the CSS part. Hope you liked the full video. Please go through this video once again if you find anywhere confusing or not being able to understand, or you can comment in the comment section as well. I'll clear your doubt there as well, or you can email me also, or you can reach me through the other social media websites as well. I'll give all the links in the description box. You can access them. Also, if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel and also hit the like button, and also don't forget to comment. Okay, I'll be back with another video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.